When you need to delve deeply into an important book, it's often very helpful to become acquainted with its outline, which you can often find in the table of contents. However, often publishers don't provide a very helpful table of contents. It's often quite incomplete. This one here is actually quite complete, but it still has some gaps that can give you a hard time. For instance, let's look at this chapter here. Chapter 8. Well, in the outline, you're just given one entry for this entire chapter. But we can see here that this chapter has several entries. It would be helpful to optionally have access to all of these entries in the outline or somewhere that we can see them more readily than we can here in this very compact and ill-designed manner. In some cases, the table of contents is ludicrously sparse. If we look at this book by Immanuel Kant, which is actually a series of books, we'll see that between books 1 and 2 there are 77 pages. So, and there's no sections that are indicated. So it's not very helpful. It would be helpful to break this down a little bit more specifically. So what would be very helpful to be able to do, I suppose, would be to add table of content entries while you're reading. And unfortunately, there is no option for you to do that in iBooks. So this table of contents that you see here is as good as it gets, which is basically not very helpful. There are a couple of ways to get around this problem. One is that you can actually use notes to act as a table of content entry. So what we would do here is select the text while we're reading, choose the highlight color that we want to associate with table of content entries, and then add a note. Now, table of contents are hierarchical. This is at the first level. This here is would be then at the second level. So I could say that this is a level 2 entry, which in my system maps onto 3 dashes. Now I go on to chapter 1. Could add a note saying that this is there. And here's our introductory. If we want to keep that in our table of contents, we can add it here. Now I'm at the 3rd level. So in my system, this number 3 maps actually to 4 dashes, which will then show up in the table of contents, or in the notes that you're treating as a table of contents, and I'll show you how to do that. And here you can do the same thing. So you see as you're going along that these entries are added in the sidebar here. So if you want to have a look at your contents, then you can do a search like this and it will filter out all the entries that have a dash with a comma. In my system, that represents table of content entries, which you can see are visible at a glance. So I've gone ahead behind the scenes and created this virtual table of contents here, and wanted to give you an idea of how it's organized. Notice that you can expand these different chapters in the notes pane here, and notice that we've got a good view of the entire chapter 1 and chapter 2, so this book 1 here. And also notice that you can use this to filter out specific chapters. Like if you're only interested in a level, like the level 1 entries of this of your virtual table of contents, then you can use this basically your 3 dashes and a space here to filter out the 4 dashes, and then you get a quick idea of, okay, here's chapter 1, chapter 2, and of course you can quickly navigate between them. So you've basically created your own table of contents here, and you're not seeing the other annotations that you may have created unless you change your filter here. As we saw in previous chapters, this tagging system relies on text expansion utilities, which are available in OS X and also in Text Expander, the application. So here's I filtered out these snips that I've defined for the table of contents. Now there's different ways you can do this, of course. This is the system I have. So comma 1 expands to 2 dashes, comma 2 to 3 dashes, etc. So that is basically my trick, and I use a comma as a delimiter here because it's easily accessible on the iOS keyboard, so that you can use these same shortcuts basically on your iOS devices. You can also define these shortcuts using system preferences, so you can easily add shortcuts that mean the same thing here. Press the plus button and type in your abbreviation, such as this, and the expansion, such as this, and just build up your keyboard shortcuts that way. Of course, this is a bit of work, but if you're going to understand something as difficult as the critique of pure reason, then the extra scaffolding that this provides and processing that you do can be helpful. Now, you can also take all of this virtual table of contents here, all your notes, do a select all, Command A, copy, Command C, and then paste these into another document that you can then go on to massage with regular expression shortcuts to create a table of contents that stands outside of the iBooks, so you can manipulate it. In an upcoming section, you'll see how to quickly and easily create a table of contents using Omni Outliner.